everyone, it's Diega here and welcome to another movie review. It has been so long since I've sat down and filmed a video. In fact, let me check how long it's been. It's been 2 months since I've sat down and filmed a video, and the last time I did a movie review was in February, so it's been a while. But yes, I'm back with another movie review today. I'm reviewing 2 movies that I've seen in the month of July. I've watched Spider-Man Homecoming and I've watched Dunkirk. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to start with Spider-Man Homecoming first because that was the first movie I watched in July. We're going to go through the cast as always. There's going to be photos here for you all to see. And yeah, I have my laptop here. So if you see me glancing this way, that's because all the information's on here. So, going through the cast of Spider-Man, Tom Holland plays Peter Parker, or Spider-Man, obviously. Michael Keaton plays Vulture. Robert Downey Jr. plays Iron Man. Marisa Tomei plays May Parker. Jon Favreau, I can't say names, I can't. Jon Favreau plays Happy Hogan. Gwyneth Paltrow plays Pepper Potts. Zendaya plays Michelle. Donald Glover plays Aaron Davis. Jacob Batalon plays Ned. Laura Harrier plays Liz. Tony Revolori plays Flash. And then there's all these other people that didn't really come up that much in the movie but are on this list anyway. I cannot talk today. Why can't I talk? Okay, so this film takes place in New York. We have Peter, who is obviously Spider-Man. He has just been able to train with the Avengers and eventually returns home because he's only 15. And he lives with his Aunt May, which if all of you have read Spider-Man or the comics and seen the past movies, you'll know who she is. And basically, he's just waiting for the next mission while he's still going to school. And he tries to fall back into a daily routine, but obviously he's Spider-Man and he doesn't really want a daily routine of going to school constantly. So basically, he's just trying to be your friendly kind of Spider-Man that's helping people out on the street. And yeah, gets caught in a little bit of trouble. And I'm not going to go into the spoilers because I'd probably give away the entire movie if I start talking more in detail about the plot. But yeah, it was so good that I watched it twice. Peter just wants to be Spider-Man and no one's letting him do anything really full on, and then eventually he ends up getting caught in his own problems, in his own crime, and ends up taking down a villain, which is usually the plot line for every superhero movie out there. But I really enjoyed this movie. I think it appeals to a wider audience than I think most of the Marvel movies do. Because it's Spider-Man Homecoming, he's only 15 in the movie. It's definitely targeted towards the younger generation of people watching this, so they did a great job with that. It was equal parts kind of like a kids movie, but with enough humor and satire that only young adults would get, that would only adults would get. So I think anybody going in to watch that, if you're dragging your parents with you, they're still going to enjoy the movie anyway, because I think, yeah, it was really well done. So let's talk a little bit more about the cast. I think the cast choices for this movie were really good. Obviously in the past Spider-Man movies, Andrew Garfield has played Spider-Man, and so now they're obviously bringing in someone new, and I think they made a really good choice choosing Tom Holland. I think they did a really good job bringing in someone new. I think they picked someone who is extremely talented. Going through interviews and watching him speaking about the movie, he can do a lot, and if you haven't seen him dancing on the lip sync battle, you need to go watch that because that was incredible too. And I think because he's been acting for so long and he's been, you know, doing stuff for so long, this movie, he just adapted so well to the whole Spider-Man franchise, and I think credit to him for doing such a good job. Jacob Batalon plays Ned, and I think his character is probably my favourite character out of all of them. I love the comic relief. Again, with most movies, there's always someone who brings comic relief, a little bit of humour, and because this is a kids movie, obviously everything's really lighthearted, and it yeah, it's really, really good. And so yeah, Ned is definitely my favourite character. I mean, everybody can go and love Spider-Man, but Ned's probably my favourite because he's just so relatable and he's funny, and I think that the movie needed something like that. And I think it's good that they incorporated that into the movie so that it's not all like superheroes and everything like that. You get to see the other side of it, which is Peter at school with, you know, all of his friends and then the love interest and everything like that. So yeah, it was really good to watch and I really enjoyed it, which is why I watched it twice. And yeah, out of 5 I would give it maybe a 4.5. I don't know why, it just feels like a good number to give it. So yeah, really enjoyed the movie, would definitely recommend it. It's definitely good for all ages. I think if you've grown up watching Spider-Man, you'll probably enjoy it. But even if you've never seen Spider-Man and you want an introduction into it, this is probably a good place to start. So yeah, that's Spider-Man Homecoming and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, let's move on to the next movie. We're now going to move on to Dunkirk, and I'm not going to lie, I have been waiting for this movie to come out for so long. If you've seen any of my past videos, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of One Direction, all of their work together, solo, I love it all. And as soon as I found out Harry was doing a movie, I was a little bit shocked because I wasn't expecting it. And I am not going to lie to you now, I did only watch the movie because Harry is in it. I am not a fan of war movies. I don't like that kind of violence. I don't like watching people die. I'm not into any of that. But if Harry's decided that he wants to put his name in something like this, then there's obviously going to be something really tasteful, and I think I underestimated the storyline for this movie because I was on the edge of my seat the entire movie. It was so full on and so epic that I was just blown away by everything that happened in it, and I'll explain why in just a second, but we're going to go through the cast first. The cast, there's names for everyone in the cast, but most of these names don't even get spoken in the film. There is Theon Whitehead plays Tommy, and Nurin Barnard plays Gibson, James Blore plays an irate soldier, Barry Keoghan plays George, Mark Rylance plays Mr. Dawson, Tom Glyn Carney plays Peter, Tom Hardy plays Farrier, Jack Loudon plays Collins, and then obviously Harry plays a character called Alex. You don't hear his name being said at all in the movie. I checked. But yeah, so that's the cast. Obviously, if you don't know anything about the Battle of Dunkirk, go do some reading about it. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot that happened in it, so I'm not going to go talking about it now because you're going to get bored. Basically, there's 3 different periods of time within the one movie. Because at the beginning of the movie, there's 3 different pieces of text that come up on the screen. The first one, it says the mole, 1 week. Then 2, it says the sea, 1 day. And the third one is the air, which is 1 hour. And I thought that was how long it would take to get to get people off Dunkirk back to England, but it's not. It covers 3 different periods of time leading up to the end. So the end of the movie is basically the present, and then you basically have anytime you see the planes, that's what happened an hour before that. Anytime that they're at sea, that's 1 day before that. And anytime they're on the mole is 1 week before that. So, yeah, that was definitely very confusing. I was sitting in there thinking, oh my god, I have no idea what's happening right now, but that's okay. The plotline for this movie, I mean, aside from the fact that I had no idea where all the times fit in, if you ignore that, the movie is very, very well made. The budget for this movie must have been huge because watching all of the interviews and that sort of thing, a lot of the scenes that you see where they're along the beach and there's all of these extras dressed up in costume, that's not CGI. There's actually thousands of people on the beach standing there as part of the movie, and I think the attention to detail with that is really, really, really cool. The plot line for this movie, it basically follows Tommy, played by Fionn Whitehead. He's essentially the main character, so you follow him for the majority of the movie. Basically, just like everyone else, the idea is that everyone wants to get out but they can't. They're trapped at Dunkirk, and eventually civilians and just regular people on boats come in to help get everyone out and back to England. They spend a lot of time in the water. I give them credit for filming that, because the amount of time they spent in the water on screen, you can only imagine how much time they spent filming that, being in the water, being stuck there. And so you kind of see two different sides to the war. You see obviously the side with all the soldiers, but then you see the hardships that the civilians had to go through in order to get there in the first place to help. For me, I found it really interesting watching the storyline unfold, and I think it was because I was confused that I was so interested in what was happening, because I remember sitting in there just on the edge of my seat waiting to find out what was happening. Everything, you know, there was always all of these attacks that were happening on the soldiers, but then you look at the civilian side and then, you know, they were going through their own hardship. And so I think I might have enjoyed the movie purely because I didn't know what was going to happen next. I obviously knew they weren't going to be going into the history of it. Basically, you're just following Tommy, who is one soldier in the 400,000 soldiers that were stuck on Dunkirk, and you get to follow the story of how he got rescued. And yeah, I think it was just so incredibly well made that it grips you from the beginning, and you want to keep watching to see what happens, because you can't tell what's going to happen. I came to the conclusion at the end of the movie that there was one pilot who basically saved everyone on Dunkirk, and I think that was obviously probably not true, but that's how I felt watching it. You were just watching everything that he was doing, and like the commitment to his job, which I think is what everyone had, was just this camaraderie between everyone wanting to just get out of there. And I think, yeah, it was really cool, and I really enjoyed it. I definitely think there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to enjoy the movie, and by people I mean fans of Harry, fans of One Direction. I think it's definitely a very specific kind of film that he went and starred in. I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was just expecting it to be like every other war movie that I've ever seen glimpses of, where it's just bodies dying all over the place, and for me, I don't find that interesting. So I think the plot line, by having it split up, so it's not just all about the soldiers, you see the pilots, you see the civilians, you see, you know, all these different stories merging into one, and how it all created, you know, together it created the Battle of Dunkirk, and I think that that's very important. There's a scene in the movie which I really enjoy. They're all hiding inside a boat, and basically they find out that one of the people with them is not who they say they are, and you know, you see some of the people on the boat are like, okay, let's get rid of him now. That's mostly Harry saying it, let's just get rid of them. And then you see the other side where they went, you know, regardless of whether he's on our side or not, he's still a person and he doesn't deserve to just die purely because he's on the other side. And I think the friendship that you see within the film, you know, they don't know each other, but they still work together in order to get out. All in all, again, I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 because, again, I don't like war movies. And that's probably not going to change. This movie has not changed me in any way. I'm still not going to watch war movies. I'm still not interested. But I'm really glad I did go see this one. I mean, I have been waiting for so long to see it, but I'm very glad that I did get to go and watch it. So that is it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. And no matter where you are in the world or whatever time you're watching this, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, guys. Mwah.